to the RBN Roundtable on Thursday, July 12th. July? What the hell? JB, get it together, man. May 12th.
Hey, July is the barbecue.
Oh yeah, July will be the barbecue. Yeah. That's what we're gonna cook out. We're gonna cook out. We're gonna smoke him if you got him. You know what I'm saying?
My goal, I'm gonna get JB so stoned, man.
Yo,
that's my only goal. That's the only goal of the barbecue. Get JB fucked up. And we get on live stream. We're gonna get JB fucked up on live stream. He'll say something he regret, but it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great content.
Oh man.
Oh boy, this is gonna be epic. Welcome to the Roundtable. I am your host, James Fauntleroy, also known as JB Font. It's so good to see all of you here with us today. The Roundtable always is here live on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on RBN. If you are new to the channel, please make sure to click that thumbs up. And if you are new, please make sure to click the subscribe button, click the notification bell just to let you know when we go live, so you can see our beautiful mugs right in front of your face on your screen, whichever it is. So, look, I am here today joined by my wonderfully brilliant co-host, Sabby Sab, and my amazing and very knowledgeable co-host, Chocolate Thunder, also known as Nick. So good to see all of y'all here today. And everybody that's here in the chat, it's so good to see one and all. Desert Mantis is in here and in the building, accounted for. Bryce Smith is also here. Yo, what's up? Steve Richter here, Michigan, has water all around. Yeah, Benson Harbor, like Frank, raw deal. Yeah, it is a raw deal. We'll be talking about all things important today. Angela is in the house. So good to see you here. Go Start. All right, good to see you. Good vibes. Alan. So good to see you also here. Cool Blue 71. Hello to you too. Laura Hawson says, I was just listening to Glenn Greenwald talk about the unit party vote to give $40 billion to ramp violence in the country that starts with a U. And we have no health care. People in the streets are hungry. Always money for death.
Hey, people are bitching and complaining about us showing up at the homes of the Supreme Court. I think we should show up at the homes of Raytheon. We need to be at weapon defense contractors. Anyone who has anything to do with $40 billion going to Ukraine. But sorry, JB, go ahead. You know, I've been having a great time. I've been watching a ton of Fox News, just listening to the tears of the ruling class. They're afraid because a small percentage of the population finally figured out maybe we should show up to these motherfuckers' homes. And then they're sweating now, man. They was on Fox News all red and shit. This is a travesty. Oh my god, people are just.
I mean, Nick,
fuck around, find out, man. Fuck around, find out.
To your point, the security guards are also working class.
Yep.
Anyway, I just wanted to make that point out there. We're pilgrims in the house. So good to see you as well, Nick. I know exactly what you know what I mean.
That's my homie.
Yep. John Kemper, so good to see you once again. All right. Solgado stumbles in. Look, you hear it. You made it. That's it. That's all that matters, baby. Anthony is also here in the chat. Rodrigo Mendez says, Sabby Sabs, the OG. Yes, she is. All right. Put some respect on her name. Lawrence Johnson.
Sabby been killing the game recently, man.
Oh,
killing the damn game.
Boy, we are proud of our Sabby Sabs up in here, man.
According to some people, she's the heart and soul of RBN. I'm just saying, according to some sources.
Oh.
All right. All right. Let me see. Sarina Sawyer says, hi, everybody. So good to see you here. Cryosynth is in the house. Brent Hudgens, I'm sorry. Please tell me we can crowdfund and attend this barbecue.
In fact, there's a Patreon that just waiting for anyone who want to help. And you guys are like me and Rome, I think we're gonna plan this because he come down in July. So I'm like, man, let's plan some sort of mutual aid barbecue. I don't know, like it's just something I just floated. And I'm like, why not? Like that, you guys understand? This is how RBN is. This is how me and Rome is. We just come up with ideas. The General Strike Summit. Literally, me and CJ just came up. We was on the stream talking shit. We were like, why don't we just have a General Strike Summit? all of a sudden we got a fucking General Strike Summit. So that usually how shit starts at RBN. So we see it. We can get some crowdfunding if they're interested, because we got some KC comrades that met at the KC tennis place, and there are a lot of comrades I know locally here as well. And shit, it might be an event worth traveling to. We can pull it together. You never know, man. I thought we see what we can do. But go ahead, James.
No, you good. Actually, that's actually a really great idea, because I mean, we can actually do something, you know, basically for the community, because that's what it's about, bringing communities together. I mean, that's what we talk about all the time. So, I mean, why not, right? All right. Yes, Little, I do have that big headphone energy, baby. All right. Recognize, baby. Recognize.
JB the hype of RBN.
Yeah. Gonna be like a DJ. You know. All right. Don't get me started. I just had some caffeine, y'all. Can you tell? All right. Rupert says good vibes. You're damn right we have good vibes. Eric T. Buddy, so good to see you also in the chat. Eric, by the way, I love you, man. I love you. Good to see you. All right. Nom says, what's up from Toronto? T. Torstick says, hey, y'all. So good to see you. Funky. Oh, I love this name. This name is epic. Funky Lollipop. I love that. Yo. Are you part of the Lollipop Guild? Yo, I'm not even high, people. Can you imagine?
We haven't even got started yet either.
We haven't even got started yet.
No, I'm just here to have fun, because I was yelling about the Israel situation last few streams. You know, I'm just about vibe. You know, okay. I'm tired of yelling right now. Can I have one stream off when I'm not yelling? I'm always talking about.
Can Nick live? Can he live, people?
Just one stream, guys, where we can just vibe. Because I've been talking about some depressing ass shit recently. So I'm just having fun. That's all.
Just wait till you hear some stories that I have. Sorry, Nick.
That's the reason I enjoy it. I was like, man, I'm gonna just have some fun today. That's
all right. Well, it's like Josana said, being joyful is also revolutionary. That's what we have to do, right?
Dr. Cornel West says the same thing as well.
Yep, definitely.
Can't have a revolution without soul. What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. Did I say hello to you, Yipper? If I didn't, hello to you, Yipper. One more day. Yep. Guess what? Is all good. Chicago Great One says, anyone calling this group of black activist groupers doth protest too much.
Oh, I have a funny video for you guys. We're gonna get to that later, though. We say that too later. We got big shout out to the Bank Sisters. They got a video that exposes exactly why we've been going out of bread to people like, why are you guys always left in fighting? And I explained it's not left in fighting. These people are enemies. I'm gonna show you guys like a historical clip. I'm glad that we finally had someone put this together. A compilation of the bread tubers lying about our General Strike Summit and other actions. So that's gonna be fun. We got that later coming today. Go ahead, James.
Yep. And just like Homegirl said, you went and saved the best for last. Okay.
That's gonna be one hell of a segment. That's a great video. I can't wait till you guys see it. If you guys haven't seen it already, it was a great video.
Yeah. Lawrence Hansen says, yes, absolutely. Good to see you. Ashura, so good to see you too. Natalie Williams is in the house. Cryosin says, Nancy quoted the Bible and said, we beat them. Oh, Nancy. How is that? That ice cream done went to your head, lady. I'm telling you. All right. Sean Brock. Let's go. I'm gonna have to cut this off in a second. You can't say the name of a country. I try not to, because YouTube is they're trying to crack down on channels what they say the country that starts with a U that rhymes with propane. So that's why I don't say it. Tony Clifton is up in here. Sula Moon, so good to see you. Sean Beck. Sweary Ferry is also in here. Yes, we love you too. Marks and Angles. I'm seeing people who I've never seen in this chat before, but I am glad that y'all are here. Nick, so good to see you too. And Leroy and Diddy. All right. I'm not going to read that. Didi, you up to no good, Didi. Pittsburgh, dude. All right, so hello to everybody else. We have to get to the stories here because it's 12 after, and we got so much love here that it'll take us all night long. But but the story that I actually want to touch on, and this is actually going to be really interesting. It's not a very long article, but it's an interesting article nonetheless. And I basically want to get your perspectives on this. This is from Ebony News Today. It actually says Black teachers are fed up and are quitting in droves. So actually, let me enlarge this just a little bit. All right. Okay. So this is an article by Maya Pottinger and Stephen Johnson. It talks about Money Seward. She takes hours to decompress when she gets home from work, and she works at a middle school in Metro Indianapolis. She's been there for 9 years. She was a special education teacher in Atlanta and has been in the field of education for a long time, including homeschooling her children. So she's basically talking about on Twitter how she actually has conversations, basically teachers talking about their frustrations, especially Black teachers. She says there's layers to what teachers are experiencing before the pandemic, and now it's just been magnified. So we all are privy to what teachers go through, especially the lack of resources that they have and compensation that they get. But she says through her online community, Seward has seen teachers quitting throughout the school year, even posting that they're resigning a month before the end of the academic year. She says people are leaving left and right in the middle of the school year. I saw people post online 3 weeks ago that they left. Now, if you leave that close to the end of the school year, you have exceeded your wits end. It's as if the last 6-7 weeks of school, they're like, you know what? The hell with it. I'm out. I quit. And it talks about the state of Black teachers. Says that about half of Black teachers, this is by the RAND Corporation, said they are likely to leave their jobs by the end of the school year, which is higher than other races. It says teachers need to be well, teachers need to be whole, teachers need to be healthy for themselves and for the students they teach. Everything that was going on during the pandemic and is still going on raised the issue of more urgent level than perhaps they needed to be before. So it talks about how there's an influx of Black teachers, especially because the way they're being treated within the school system, and now they're leaving in droves. I just want to get your thoughts on this. Savvy, you are also in higher ed, which means that you are in the educational field. What are your thoughts based on this article that you've heard so far? And then I'll go to Nick right afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. That's part of the reason why I left education, because I mean, the pandemic, I think, just escalated things, but there was always issues. Teachers are underpaid in this country. There are a couple of states where they're paid, I guess you would say, a fair wage, but for the most part, they're underpaid, but they're asked to do a lot, right? So one thing I want to mention in reference to the pandemic, teachers were told that all of a sudden they were going to have to do remote teaching, which actually is not easy to do. If you've never taught remotely before, there was no one to teach you how to do it. Like, they had to figure out how to do it on their own. They had to deal with students not showing up online for class just because their parents weren't there to make sure that they would get online on the computer. So things that they didn't really have to worry about before, on top of their normal workload that they have as a teacher. And one of the things that they did here in Massachusetts, which a lot of people were up in arms about, they actually made the teachers still come to the school to teach in the classroom, even though the students were at home. So the students were studying remotely, but they told the teachers they still had to physically teach in the classroom, empty classrooms, which to me didn't make any sense, right? Yeah. So you have people spending money on gas, still traveling back and forth to work to go teach in an empty classroom. So it really looked kind of silly. I'm just gonna be honest, but The
That seems
teachers
like
have
a
to
power
go through
move.
so much. Yeah, they have to go through so much. They're underpaid. They're underappreciated. And another thing I want people to know, because I think some people think that teachers don't have to do work during the summer. That's actually not true. Teachers still have to do work during the summer. Some of them pick up a second job during the summer just to make like ends meet. Like one of my teachers used to work at the mall, and she was our history teacher. So they're just not treated well. They're treated very poorly. We do not have a lot of Black teachers in this country. We don't have, especially when it comes to Black men, there's even fewer. And so the way that they're underpaid, they're overworked, especially during the pandemic. There was no concern for the health of the teachers. It was just about the health of the students. So people saw that. And then whenever you're teaching remotely, you actually have to put in more hours than you would if you were physically in the classroom and the students were there with you. So it's so much you have to deal with. People losing internet connection, having to start over lessons. Like it's brutal. So I don't blame them from walking away. And I'm surprised that it didn't happen like sooner, but I really think the pandemic escalated that.
Yeah. Nick, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't understand why the American people ain't fed up, period, based on how they're treated. But teachers in particular is something that exposes capitalism. The state of how our system treats teachers is one of the things I see. I was like, that was immediately a sign of a broken society. Think about how much cops get paid. Like people keep saying, "Woe is me." Cops are not working class. I want you guys to understand that. The NYPD, those cops are making six figures. But meanwhile, you got teachers that are struggling. Like, look how much they willing to pay people to enforce our brutal laws. But the people who actually have the most value in our society, the people who are supposed to shape our next generation, the people who are teaching our children, they're treated like garbage. Now, what do a lot of capitalists say to justify stealing the labor value of people who bring great value to companies like McDonald's and Walmart? So McDonald's and Walmart are extremely profitable companies. So that means the workers are bringing a ton of value. So there's no argument to keep those people in poverty wages other than this is what they say. They said, well, technically they are low skill. They're not that important to society. They are replaceable. Well, we all acknowledge that teachers are some of the most important roles in society. So if capitalism compensation actually was based on the importance of your job, teachers be among the highest. So it's almost like capitalism. The value of your work is based on how much you can exploit. It's not actually a hierarchy. It's not. There's no real societal basis based on who get paid the most and who don't. Because I can go through all the arguments that capitalists use, like, oh, your work not important, you're not bringing enough value. That does not apply to teachers, construction workers, plumbers. I can go down the list. These people are the most important people in our society that keep this running. But in my opinion, they should be making it as much a lot of people in tech because they are building our infrastructure. That is the value of their work. They bring in that amount of value. Look how much the Walton family is worth.
Just one thing to also add to your point, Nick. It was I think it's in South Korea or is it in Singapore? I can't remember exactly which country, but they actually have another name for their teachers. They call them nation builders because that's literally what they do, is that they help build a nation. And the thing is that they are extremely important. And to get back to the article, this is a very interesting paragraph right here that I want to also get your thoughts on, actually really get your comments on, but this is deeply important to note. It says, as with many aspects of life, Black adults serve multiple roles in schools, and not all of them are visible. Children of color are widely more academically successful when they have a Black principal, and that success continues down the ladder. Black students who learn from Black teachers in elementary school are more likely to graduate from high school and enroll in college, 13%, more likely if they have one Black teacher, and more than double that at 32% if they have had at least two. So a decline in Black teachers would have really a far-reaching effects on students. So, going back to this paragraph about the effects of having a teacher that you can identify with as well in school. Sabby, your thoughts, please.
So I immediately think about standardized tests, which for people who don't realize, standardized tests are racist. I'm just here to tell you they're racist. And for people who ask why, it's the types of questions that they ask. It's the way they ask the questions. It's the time limit that they have for you to complete those tests. So for example, a lot of the questions that you see on those exams, they are questions that really go along with European culture. What do I mean by that? This is the example that Princess Blanding used. There was a question on a test. It was a middle school test. How long does it take so-and-so to do her hair? Now, if a Black girl's looking at that question, she may answer differently than the white girl looking at that question, because realistically, for Black women, it takes us longer to do our hair.
Yeah.
But that answer would be wrong. That's not the answer that's on the standardized test. So a lot of those questions are based on European culture. So if you do have a Black teacher, where does that come in to help? Is that they're able to explain to you those questions in a different way and what they're actually looking for. They're able to tell you that you have to kind of flip a switch. And this is another example where Black people have to kind of code switch a little bit. You have to flip a switch and not think about these questions in reference to your culture. You have to think about what would be the right answer in reference to European culture. And if you don't have that teacher there to help you do that, you just don't know. And this is one of the reasons why Black students struggle harder with those standardized exams, because there's no one there to break that down for them and explain to them. You can't think in reference to your culture. You have to think in reference to European culture. That's how you get the right answer on the exam. So this is not like surprising to me. I've seen a lot of this like in education, and I will let people know as well. I don't know if everyone's aware of this, but teachers also a lot of times have to pay for their own classroom supplies. Like the school does not pay for that. They have to use their own money to buy supplies for the students. And I've also seen where teachers are constantly, at least here in Massachusetts, asked to go back and get new certifications to deal with other types of needs. They may have already had the certification that they need for their license, but 2 years later, they may ask them to go back and get a certification for special education, or go back and get a certification for ELL, English language learners. The school does not pay for those exams. The teacher has to pay for them. Those exams are expensive.
Wow.
So if you don't pass the first time around, you have to continue to take it until you pass. That's like thousands of dollars.
Wow.
So this is a career where a lot of times you end up using your own salary to get supplies and get certifications that you need just to be able to do your job.
And Sabi, don't the people like the executives, the principals, they make an obscene amount of money. Like the people on the board, and then look how much they pay football coaches as well. So you got to spoil the people, the executives. It's just like everything else in our society. People on top plundering, and they have the money. These schools are rich. A lot of these schools are rich, but then they impose regressive policies on their own teachers. What does that say about our system?
And they're tricky about it too, because another thing, some states have made it so that teachers can't go on strike. So depending on which state you teach in, if you want better benefits, you may not be able to go on strike. And the way that they'll get some of these teachers to come in, private schools is a big one. If you teach at a private school, whether you're low income or not, and you have kids, your kids can go to that private school for free. And that's one of the ways that they'll get some people to come teach at those schools. Come in and teach at the private school so your children can get a free private education. But the parents are still broke because they're still not really paying you anything. This is something like Colin, JB, you might have talked to Colin about this, but Colin had that experience where it's like your parents teach at the school, and so you get it's just all like connected, but like they work long hours. They still have to grade papers when they get off from work. I think a lot of people think that teachers work these short hours. They're still working when they get off from work, and they still have to work during the summer as well. And depending on which state you're in, your ability to keep your job sometimes is based on the performance of your students. So if your students aren't passing these standardized tests, you might be 1 foot out the door.
Yeah. I think it's bullshit that teachers have to grade papers off the clock.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes that's so crazy. Like, I remember when I first heard that. That's the craziest shit. That's so crazy. Give them time to grade paper at work, man. Are y'all fucking serious? But go ahead, James.
Yeah. Like taking your work home with you. It's like, no. If that's you honestly, that's it. Yes, exactly, Nick.
That's waste theft.
That's waste theft. And the thing is that our literal teachers their wages are also being stolen. And then on top of it, and Sabby, you spoke on this a lot, where you spoke of how the way that schools are funded is cattywampus because they're basically paid through property taxes. And if your school is in an area where the neighborhood is not so good, well, then the property taxes are going to be lower, which means that the compensation for the school is also going to be lower.
Yep. And you're going to have less resources at that school, which means you'll have to spend more of your money to put in those resources that are missing.
Yeah. I'm going to finish this with the quote here. The quote says, "Black kids won't have any representation except for a few of us who grin and bear it and take whatever comes their way. By being silent, we are not doing anything for the kids who are coming after us if we continue to work in these conditions and we continue to essentially beg people to see us as human beings, to see us as professionals." I think that's one of the biggest problems, right? I think that's one of the biggest issues. It's the fact that they don't see us. They don't see them as professional. They don't see them as people who are deserving just as much, as the other teachers. But the thing is that it's a system of not caring because they see them as less than.
Yeah, and the other thing too is, sorry, Nick.
No, go ahead, Sabi. Go ahead.
The other thing too is what happens if you go to a school where there's no Black teachers, but there's a couple of Black students and you have a racist teacher? Because I had that happen in elementary school. We had a racist teacher. She would never call on the Black students. She would only call on the white students. And everybody knew she was racist. It wasn't like it was like a secret. But there's no other Black people at the school for you to go to. Yeah, you could tell your parents, but during that time when you were in that building, there's nobody else that you can go to and confide in and say, Miss So-and-so doesn't like the Black kids in the classroom. So that representation is important. And I think we do need more Black teachers, but the reason why we don't have more is because of the way that they're treated, just like a lot of other professions, to be honest with you.
There was an article I read a long time ago. I really wish I could find it, but it would be really hard. But what do you guys think the white women racists went? There was an FBI report that showed the white supremacists, they infiltrated the police. That's the men. Who do you think their wives are? I'm just asking that question for anyone who might be doubting what Sabi said. And this study and this article explains that the wives of like KKK members and white supremacists, if that's your wife, she's a white supremacist. Because you're not marrying someone with that ideology if you're not cool with that. You are at least tolerant to that ideology if you're married to a KKK racist police person. So a lot of these people, the same way the police infiltrated law enforcement, the males did, and they infiltrated the military and the border patrol, you have white women infiltrate schools and nursing.
Yep.
And that's where you get racist behavior in healthcare. And that's an entire different story. So if for anyone who doubt what Sabi said, I'm just asking you that question. Where do you think the white racist white wives went? Do you think they all just work at home? You think all the KKK members have wives that just work at home? No, they're racist asses in the workforce too, making our lives hell. It's not just the white men.
You know, and you know what? I read an article a couple weeks back about a doctor that is actually been locked out. I tease definitely a lot of clues. Okay, that was funny. But there was a surgeon, a neurosurgeon that has been locked out of the medical community due to racism. A surgeon. And people talk about, they go, well, we don't have enough black doctors. I wonder why.
Yeah.
And the thing is that when it comes to, teachers, I'm proud to say that, especially when it came to 3rd and 4th grade, I went to predominantly black schools, and the teaching, the staff was predominantly black. Also in middle school, predominantly black, and in high school, predominantly black. But I'm I'm kind of the exception rather than the rule. And even then, we had a lot of white teachers, especially in the high school, and we had quite a few in the middle school. So, with that being said, not every single person who has a little bit more melanin in their skin has the opportunity to go and have that, that many black teachers. In fact, I want everybody in the comments right now, I want you all to go through in your head and put it in the chat. How many black teachers have you had in your life? Count, please count. I actually had a black male principal back then, Mr. Massey. I remember him. Richmond Heights Elementary. I also had a black principal in middle school, Miss Maxine Risper. In fact, my mom actually used to work at my school, and I actually been to Miss Risper's house. She had a kick-ass bar, by the way, just letting y'all know. But, and then, I had some of my most favorite teachers ever were black teachers. Not because they were black, but look, 0, 3, 0, and 13 years of school between kindergarten and 12th grade. Some people are like, 3, 0, 2, 2, 0. I'm like, what?
Even in some of the black urban neighborhoods, if you go into the schools, a lot of times the teachers are white. Same thing here in Boston. If you go into Roxbury, if you go into Dorchester, most of the teachers are white, even though it's a black neighborhood. Now, why is that important? Because one of the things I noticed is that it seems like some of the teachers are more quick, I would say, to label black students as learning disabled, ADHD, put them on an IEP, which is an individual education plan, which all 3 of those make you an outclass for the classroom. And sometimes those students actually don't qualify to be labeled as such. But because the teacher who is teaching them is not from the same community and doesn't understand what they're going through at home, for example, if you had a black teacher in there and the student has to find a way to get to school by themselves because their parents have to work 2 jobs, black teacher might understand that. Mm-hmm. If you have a black student who come in, especially for females who come in, and let's say we're doing like dress up day or spirit week, that little fun stuff they used to do. And another student puts their hands in her hair and the black girl gets upset. A black teacher might understand that. So that's why it is important. But I've seen them just label these kids as, that one's not worth any time. Let's just put them on an IEP. Let's just put them in a special class. And a lot of times it's not that those students cannot learn. It's that they have other things that are going on within their community, even before they even made it into your classroom, that they have to deal with every day. Sometimes they have come from a single parent home. The mom is working 2 jobs. The kid has to come home and tell themselves to do their homework. And if you are one of these suburban teachers that just thinks it's hip and cool because you teach in a black urban neighborhood and you want to go brag to your friends at brunch about it, but you're not willing to deal with all the issues that those kids from the community are bringing into your classroom, then you might as well just teach at a suburban school.
Yeah. I remember when I was in college, I had a friend who went to a well-funded school and they had like tutors and shit. And I was like, what the fuck is a tutor? Like, we didn't have anything like that in our school.
Yeah.
Like they had these people that was helping them. Like, we're gonna give you a study guide for the SATs. I'm like, what the fuck? We didn't have that.
Study guide.
They had all
What in the hell is a study guide?
They had counselors and shit. Like, bro, like what are you talking about? You mean you have someone you can talk to, like a psychologist in your school? We didn't have that.
Yeah. It's like
no, they don't know the differences. So
Yeah,
my point is they don't know the differences between our societies. But go ahead, James.
Yeah, like shop class. What the hell's a shop class? Swim team. Y'all actually have a pool at school? What the hell?
Yeah. My parents had a wood shop when they were growing up, but they said they took it out of the school. They got rid of it later on.
I literally didn't know how much we was robbed until I made some friends in college who went to like Ray Peck and Lee Summit West and those kind of schools who like get way more funding, because I know Savvy can probably tell more about it than me, but income taxes, how they fund the schools is highly classed, so highly high income neighborhoods get more funding than low income neighborhoods. So like they always had like better equipment, better technology. Like someone they had like iPads and shit. Like, bro, I didn't have iPads. Like what? So it's like all this stuff it's a completely different thing, and that goes to the divide. Imagine if you're a teacher and you went to school in this white suburbia, you're not gonna be able to connect to people that had to go through without the resources that you had, right? Just for one example, right?
Yeah, and let me bring this home, because a lot of people may end up tuning into this and thinking, well, you guys are just talking about race. This you guys are just talking about about social issues. And the thing is, like, no, because class and race go hand in hand when it comes to us, and people need to realize this, because guess what? Because of the white supremacy, then that also affects us as a class issue, therefore putting us underneath instead of on par with everybody else where it should be. So when it comes to our neighborhoods, when it comes to the way we're treated in school, the way some of our teachers are treated in school, then it all comes together. Because guess what? These same teachers that are being treated poorly, how's their pay going? And then if they have to leave, then guess what? There's less black teachers in school, which also can affect the graduation rates of black kids, which means that you'll have less people, less black people going to college. And the thing is that we have to talk about this, because the thing is that class and race go hand in hand. It's called intersectionality, my friends. And this is one of the things that we have to discuss, because look, the education of those of us who are black, that is also deeply important, because what was held back from our ancestors back in the day as far as education goes? We were told that we couldn't learn how to read and we couldn't learn how to write. That was a held back on education. And what is the quote that's always said is knowledge is power. Guess what? If you don't know anything, you can't do anything. So this is one of the reasons why it's important for us to talk about this, because we can intersect that class with the economics. With the race with the economics.
You want to talk about class? Mm-hmm. You guys know I always like to do this, especially on this issue. I can do it on any issue. Let's talk about it with education. Why do you guys think they treat teachers so badly? Why do you think they educate our students the way they do? The Rockefellers and capitalists built our education system. Our capitalists built our education system, and this is what they quite literally admit: to create obedient worker ants. They want to program you into workers. And Jane, feel free to interrupt, but that's my point. So, and when they have teachers that they treat like shit because they still imposing their class war on the teachers, they want nothing more than teachers to be beat up, ran down. They don't care if the teacher does a great job. They don't care if the teacher is like some sort of inspirational person. In fact, they probably don't want that. They don't want no teacher imagine if you had a teacher that turned you to class conscious. That's the last thing they want, right? So it actually benefits them to extract as much wealth and resources for the teacher as much as possible. They're the same way, as I mentioned before, administrators, principals, the people on top of education, they make the most. Beat down the teachers. So the teachers they tired, they going through the bare minimum. And then you get the students in and out, get them used to a 9-to-5 work schedule, turn them to obedient worker ants, because that is what the Rockefellers, that is what the capitalists who built our public education system had in mind. This is why we fall behind on education compared to Cuba. We are nothing compared to Cuba and Southeast Asian countries when it comes to education. Hell, even I don't have to make that disclaimer. Any European countries, when it comes to any industrial country, we are our education is trash because it's not meant to make wise, well-informed citizens. It made to create worker ants. It made to propagandize people. It is there to create Zionists. It is there to create people who think, yeah, I think this Wall Street system, it works pretty well. And someone mentioned this before, I'll pass it right to you guys, but I remember Zoya mentioned this before. Like when I went to high school, they didn't have like economic classes in terms of like how like fighting Wall Street and how Wall Street would rip you off with rent and mortgage fraud. That's something that we should know because they ripped off black people with falsified and illegal documents. So why is there not classes that teach us how to spot that shit? There's and once again, that's not anyone's fault, but these are kind of things that we need to be aware of, like how to spot out loan sharks, how to manage our budget, how to spot out a shady mortgage opportunity, how to spot out propaganda. Like these are kind of things we should be learning. I can rant about this all day, but I'll pass it to you guys because it's actually a class analysis on how our education system fails as well. And I can give many more examples, but I would love to get James' savvy opinion on here as well. Go ahead.
I was just going to say this actually goes all the way back to the New Deal, because when Roosevelt issued the New Deal, obviously some of those programs didn't apply to black people. And so when white people were given the opportunity to go to the suburbs, the suburban communities and start anew, black people were shut out of those neighborhoods. Yeah, so black people stayed in the inner city. When white people left the inner city, they took their money with them. They took the wealth with them. So now, because schools were funded based on property taxes, that meant the schools that were still left in the cities were now under-resourced and underfunded. They're all connected. So it goes all the way back to the New Deal. And to echo what Nick said, if you go into some of these schools that are in like the inner city, in black neighborhoods, when they do have teachers come in that are exceptional teachers that are doing a good job and they're getting their students, they connected with them and they're getting them to pass these exams and to score high on these standardized tests, what do? They get rid of them. You know why? Because they don't want them to change anything. They don't want them. Don't believe me? There's been multiple movies, multiple docuseries and movies made about teachers who did just that, went into those schools, made a big difference, and they got rid of them.
Why don't we got classes where we learn our rights? Like you know, the rights you have against the police, the right to remain silent, like lawyer strategies. Like these are kind of things we should be learning, right? Critical analysis of the media, especially in our partisan media that we have right now. Think about what we learned in high school and think about the job that you have. You who are watching, I had plenty of jobs in sales, and I worked with the gas company, inspecting gas lines, a lot of customer service jobs. And I'm like, bro, 90% of the fucking classes I'll have mean nothing in my life, period. Why do you think it's like that? Our education system is just fucking random. We're gonna teach you X here, some X formula here that you're never gonna use again. We're gonna teach you some random scientific trivia that means nothing for your life. Why aren't we learning everyday survival shit? like just fill in the blank, right? Once again, critical media theory. Why we aren't learning more in depth about economics, how to manage a checkbook. Like these are things that we should be learning. That at least if you did learn it, just know my school didn't teach this shit. You might have a better education than me, but there's things they don't teach in our school that they should. Instead of growing food. Someone just said, why don't they should have gardening classes? Might as well. And there's so many things I thought about, and I was just learning, like, man, our education system really is meant to create worker ants because there's so many things they could be doing that they purposely try not to, right? But anyway, I want to get JB back in here.
Well, that's actually one of the things that actually was taught to me in middle school. We actually had a greenhouse, and they actually took us out to know how to plant and cultivate food. And they also gave us a driving class by allowing us to drive on the little tractor, in the field next to the school when I was in middle school. So that's one thing that I can say, hey, that was something good that they had us do. Of course, I never got a chance to do it, but whatever. But, they actually tried to teach us, you had some decent teachers, but also we also had some propaganda teachers because there's one black police officer that held a class that we actually had to go to that taught us about police. But that's a whole nother story. If you guys don't mind, are you willing to react to this video that I have known about for years, but it actually is very important to this topic? Are you guys game for that?
Yeah,
Whoop, whoop.
It's about 11 minutes, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to show you
while I'm playing, but I'm listening.
Okay. All right. So this video is called "Changing Education Paradigms," and some of you may have seen it, some of you may have not. But this is very interesting, and I'll stop in different intervals to get you your thoughts. But this is also going to be very interesting, and it's going to reflect a lot of what you guys have been saying. So I'll meet you guys in a second. Oh, hang on. Okay.
Don't say 1.5 speed. Should be a good video though.
Every country on earth at the moment is reforming public education. There are two reasons for it. The first of them is economic. People are trying to work out, how do we educate our children to take their place in the economies of the 21st century? How do we do that, given that we can't anticipate what the economy will look like at the end of next week, as the recent turmoil is demonstrating? How do we do that? The second, though, is cultural. Every country on earth is trying to figure out, how do we educate our children so they have a sense of cultural identity and so that we can pass on the cultural genes of our communities while being part of the process of globalization? How do we square that circle? The problem is they're trying to meet the future by doing what they did in the past. And on the way, they're alienating millions of kids who don't see any purpose in going to school. When we went to school, we were kept there with a story, which was if you worked hard and did well and got a college degree, you would have a job. Our kids don't believe that. And they're right not to, by the way. You're better having a degree than not, but it's not a guarantee anymore. And particularly not if the route to it marginalizes most of the things that you think are important about yourself. Some people say we have to raise standards as if this is a breakthrough. You know, like, really, yes, we should. Why would you lower them? You know, I mean, I haven't come across an argument that persuades me of lowering them. But raising them, of course we should raise them. The problem is that the current system of education was designed and conceived and structured for a different age. It was conceived in the intellectual culture of the Enlightenment and in the economic circumstances of the Industrial Revolution. Before the middle of the 19th century, there were no systems of public education. Not really. I mean, you could get educated by Jesuits, you know, if you had the money. But public education, paid for from taxation, compulsory to everybody and free at the point of delivery, that was a revolutionary idea. And many people objected to it. They said it's not possible for many street kids, working class children, to benefit from public education. They're incapable of learning to read and write, and why are we spending time on this? So there's also built into it a whole series of assumptions about social structure and capacity. It was driven by an economic imperative of the time, but running right through it was an intellectual model of the mind, which was essentially the Enlightenment view of intelligence. That real intelligence consists in the capacity for a certain type of deductive reasoning and a knowledge of the classics originally, what we come to think of as academic ability. And this is deep in the gene pool of public education, that there are really two types of people, academic and non-academic, smart people and non-smart people. And the consequence of that is that many brilliant people think they're not, because they've been judged against this particular view of the mind. So we have twin pillars, economic and intellectual. And my view is that this model has caused chaos in many people's lives. It's been great for some. There have been people who've benefited wonderfully from it. But most people have not. Instead, they suffer this. This is the modern epidemic, and it's as misplaced and it's as fictitious. This is the plague of ADHD. Now, this is a map of the incidence of ADHD in America, or prescription.
Savvy, your thoughts so far? I know Nick had to step away for a second.
I mean, it looks, pretty realistic so far to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's going to get into ADHD. I kind of want to skip over that, but I'm not sure if you're interested in hearing about it. But a lot of people are, actually talking about it nowadays. But I guess I should let it play. So I'll just let it keep going.
For ADHD. Don't mistake me here. I don't mean to say there is no such thing as attention deficit disorder. I'm not qualified to say if there is such a thing. I know that a great majority of psychologists and pediatricians think there is such a thing, but it's still a matter of debate. What I do know for a fact is it's not an epidemic. These kids are being medicated as routinely as we had our tonsils taken out, and on the same whimsical basis and for the same reason, medical fashion. Our children are living in the most intensely stimulating period in the history of the earth. They're being besieged with information and calls for their attention from every platform, computers, from iPhones, from advertising holdings, from hundreds of television channels. And we're penalizing them now for getting distracted. From what? Boring stuff at school, for the most part. It seems to me it's not a coincidence totally that the incidence of ADHD has risen in parallel with the growth of standardized testing. Now, these kids are being given Ritalin and Adderall and all manner of things, often quite dangerous drugs, to get them focused and calm them down.
You guys killing it.
But according to this, attention deficit disorder increases as you travel east across the country. People start losing interest in Oklahoma. They can hardly think straight in Arkansas. And by the time they get to Washington, they've lost it completely. And there are separate reasons for that, I believe. It's a fictitious epidemic. If you think of it, the arts, and I don't say this exclusively of the arts, I think it's also true of science and of maths, but I say about the art particularly because they are the victims of this mentality currently, particularly. The arts especially address the idea of aesthetic experience. An aesthetic experience is one in which your senses are operating at their peak, when you're present in the current moment, when you're resonating with the excitement of this thing that you're experiencing, when you are fully alive. An anesthetic is when you shut your senses off and deaden yourself to what's happening. And a lot.
Now, just as a point, when you think of a lot of the arts that we have experienced over the years, and I'm pretty sure that you can identify with this, Sabs, is that a lot of revolutionaries have also been deeply entrenched in the arts, right? You have revolutionary, thoughts in literature, music, people who have been in acting. And the thing is that a lot of this is actually has been taken away over the years, especially like how many of us, have had a music class where we actually got to play with instruments and things like that. They actually try to cut these things away. And, what Professor Robinson actually was talking about earlier is that this was based on an industrialized model, basically for creating worker ants, right? And so this kind of goes back into what you were saying about earlier, about how we are constantly being, bombarded with, educating for the means of, for the means of compliance. We're being educated for, by the means of just follow directions, but do not think critically. So this is something that I think that he's touching on, and talking about the aesthetic experience, meaning waking up your mind to basically use more critical thinking and thinking for yourself versus the anesthetization of our society, which deadens you to what's going on. So you're just a drone. You're just going by the motions and doing what you're supposed to do without having to think critically at all. You go ahead, please, your thought.
An example of that is with math. Now, I remember in school, like with math, especially with word problems, we always were told we had to show our work, right? How we got to that conclusion.
Yeah.
But not everybody solves a problem the same way. What I found in the education system, a lot of times the teacher wanted you to solve the problem or solve the equation the way that they taught you to do it. Whereas some people found other ways to solve the problem and get to the same answer.
Gabby,
right?
that used to piss me off so much.
Right.
I was a big math guy. I used to be like, man, they like, show your steps. Like, man, I already solved it.
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. So why do people have to, they used to want to see, let me make sure you carry the one and all that. Like, not everyone needs to do that. Some people can just do it in their head, or they have a different way to solving the problem, but getting the same answer. But to JB's point, they teach you to basically just be compliant, to follow directions. They don't want you to think critically. A lot of times when students do think critically, they're told they need to pull it back a little bit. you need to pull it back, because they do. They want you to just know what they tell you, and that's it.
Why do you think they don't want us to learn critical race theory?
I'm glad you played this video, JB. I'm so glad he played this video, because this is one of the things I came to realize around the time I started decolonizing my mind. Like, when I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start questioning everything they started telling me, and I'm like, ADHD? You mean a kid being a kid? So what they are upset at, and this go back to the worker ant theory. Like, they want you to be groomed in a certain way, and they're like, oh, he's not a good little capitalist. There must be something wrong with him.
Yep.
He's the kind of kid who learns. Like, I'm the kind of kid who learned through doing. Like lectures, like these kind of, like the formal public education system. Not for me. I think you guys see my intelligence. I learn in different ways, but that's not for me. But they label me a troublemaker, right? This is what they do. And even though obviously I had a lot of potential, it just don't come out through the public education system. Many people can attest to the same thing. So when they come up with all these things like ADHD, and they also say this stuff as well. And I do want to preface this. Like, I'm not speaking on behalf. I know a lot of people go through a lot of stuff as well, but ADHD, and they pushing depression pills out to everyone. Now, I think it's just capitalism. I think people are stressed because they're working to death. Our society provides dull lives for people, dull, meaningless lives for people where they just engage in consumerism. So yeah, some of you guys are depressed, but some of you guys are just victims of capitalism. Like, some of you guys have been taught to live this lifestyle that is not natural. Like, why do you guys think that the rise of depression rates happened after the industrial age? Like, you see indigenous societies who have way less than us, but they are happy as fuck. Like, the way we are groomed, the way we live our lives in society is extremely unnatural. And some people find a way to make it work, but then there are a large segment who they will just simply wire differently, and now they are labeled as depressed because they are. They're depressed because the system sucks. It's not because their brain is broken. That's what they tell you. Your brain is broken. There's something wrong with you because you don't fit in with this society. I'm like, no, I just think this society is built for them. This society is really individualistic when humans are not really meant to be that way. We are not meant to be factory robots. So I think that would lead to a lot of mental problems that I want to talk about.
In fact, Nick, I'm going to quote Albert Einstein. This is one of my favorite quotes that he's ever said, and I'm going to quote it right now. And here it is. Quote by Albert Einstein. He said, "Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking that it's stupid." The thing is that everybody has an intellectual ability to be great in some way, capacity, shape, or form. But we are boxed into a system that makes us feel dumb because they don't teach the way we learn, or they don't adapt to the way our bodies physiologically operate. And so because of that, then some people are shut out, and they're relegated to being classified as not smart or stupid, or you're not intellectual. So therefore, you just have to be on the lower rungs of society. That's what you do. Oh, you're not good at intellectual abilities? Okay, you like to work with your hands? All right, well, we're not really going to give you the big bucks then. You're just going to be moving stuff and doing manual labor and make little to no money on it. We need the people who are smart to make the big bucks. And that's the way capitalism works. You know, and just like how you guys were saying earlier about the people who are teachers, the people who work as plumbers, the people who work as electricians, the people who, do the manual labor. Because look, you can get rid of a CEO and the company will still run right on the ticket. But you get rid of them workers, guess what? There ain't no company, right? So, I just want to also thank Lady Alex for the tip on Rockfin. Lady Alex says, I'm a product of the New York City public school system. I was one of the kids that were bused to Ocean Hill and Brownsville, Brooklyn, in the push for integration. This was a futile action as the roots of racism have yet to be addressed. Thank you so much for that tip on Rockfin, Lady Alex. Appreciate it very much. And everybody, shout out to everybody who's watching on Rockfin as well. Can I continue, or did you guys have something else that you wanted to add?
I'm good. I think we I just want you guys, as we did earlier, take it back to class, because I analyzed every story, every fabric of our society in class, and that is what it is, especially when you see pretty much people like Betsy DeVos and the education capitalists that pretty much stole from our education system and doled it down, and they did it on purpose. I think it's by design. So that's the only thing I want to say to wrap up the story.
Sabby, anything you want to add before I continue?
I was just going to say, if you talk to people who have attended schools like abroad in some of these other countries, you see the difference. Like, I saw the difference between the education system in Germany versus the education system in the United States. There's huge disparities here. And it just seemed like they had a community first mindset. I mean, we don't even want to give people free community college in this country. So it seemed like they had a community first mindset. Like, yes, we need to educate them and teach them what they need to know. Whereas here, like in the United States, it's just like you're all out for yourself. It's like it's all based on your zip code determines what type of education that you receive. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
You're being punished for being poor. Like, if you're a kid and you're poor, you don't get to have a decent education. They're punishing you because you're poor.
Yeah. It's punishment. Yeah. Okay. So let's continue. It gets even more interesting from here.
Is when you shut your senses off and deaden yourself to what's happening. And a lot of these drugs are that. We're getting our children through education by anesthetizing them. And I think we should be doing the exact opposite. We shouldn't be putting them asleep. We should be waking them up to what they have inside of themselves. But the model we have is this. I believe we have a system of education that is modeled on the interests of industrialism and in the image of it. I'll give you a couple.
AKA capitalism, by the way.
A couple of examples. Schools are still pretty much organized on factory lines, ringing bells, separate facilities, specialized into separate subjects. We still educate children by batches. We put them through the system by age group. Why do we do that? Why is there this assumption that the most important thing kids have in common is how old they are? It's like the most important thing about them is their date of manufacture. You know what I mean? Well, I know kids who are much better than other kids at the same age in different disciplines, or at different times of the day, or better in smaller groups than in large groups, or sometimes they want to be on their own. If you're interested in the model of learning, you don't start from this production line mentality. It's essentially about conformity, and increasingly it's about that as you look at the growth of standardized testing and standardized curricula. And it's about standardization. I believe we've got to go in the exact opposite direction. That's what I mean about changing the paradigm. There was a great study done recently of divergent thinking. Published a couple of years ago. Divergent thinking isn't the same thing as...
Just to harp on that point, it was basically it was basically modeled after just trying to keep the gears of capitalism going. That's basically what education is based on. It's never about actually teaching our kids about how to survive as adults within the system. Because if that was the case, then every school would have a garden that would teach gardening, about how to survive, as an adult. Every school would have classes that teach us, about financial literacy. I mean, granted, one thing that the governor of Florida is trying to do is trying to put financial literacy into our schools. I mean, a broken clock is right twice a day, right? But that's, something that's not done. Why isn't cooking being put into schools as a skill, as a life skill? Because our kids can't survive off of Uber, DoorDash, and all these other companies for the rest of their lives. Savvy?
And I was going to say, you have to remember, we didn't always have school, right? We didn't always have like a physical building to go to called school. There were people, in this country, across the world, basically, where there was no school. There was no set of instructions to teach you how to build a fire. There were no set of instructions to teach you how to build shelter. People learned, though, right? They learned on their own, and then they showed others how to do it as well. So when you think about like the hunters and the gatherers, like there was no physical school that they went to. So it just, I mean, we have to like educate each other and people within our community like they used to do back then.
That's a form of mutual aid. They don't teach you martial arts in school. I think they should. Mm-hmm. I teach people martial arts for free. I think that's the form of mutual aid. But anyway, go ahead, James.
Yeah. All right. So he's talking about what's called divergent thinking.
Creativity. I define creativity as the process of having original ideas that have value. Divergent thinking isn't a synonym, but it's an essential capacity for creativity. It's the ability to see lots of possible answers to a question, lots of possible ways of interpreting a question, to think what Edward de Bono would probably call laterally, to think not just in linear or convergent ways, to see multiple answers, not one. So, I mean, there are tests for this. I mean, one kind of cod example would be people might be asked to say, how many uses can you think of for a paperclip? One of those routine questions. Most people might come up with 10 or 15. People who are good at this might come up with 200. And they do that by saying, well, could the paperclip be 200 foot tall and be made out of foam rubber? Like, does it have to be a paperclip as we know it, Jim? Now, there are tests for this, and they gave them to 1,500 people. This is in a book called Breakpoint and Beyond. And on the protocol of the test, if you scored above a certain level, you'd be considered to be a genius at divergent thinking. Okay? So my question to you is, what percentage of the people tested, of the 1,500, scored at genius level for divergent thinking? Now, you need to know one more thing about them. These were kindergarten children. So what do you think? What percentage at genius level? 80. 80, okay. 98%. Now, the thing about this was it was a longitudinal study. So they retested the same children 5 years later, ages of 8 to 10. What do you think? 50? They retested them again 5 years later, ages 13 to 15. You can see a trend here, can't you? Now, this tells an interesting story, because you could have imagined it going the other way, couldn't you? You start off not being very good, but you get better as you get older. But this shows two things. One is we all have this capacity, and two, it mostly deteriorates. Now, a lot of things have happened to these kids as they've grown up, a lot. But one of the most important things that happened to them, I'm convinced, is that by now they've become educated.
Interesting, right? Very interesting. Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking that it's stupid. That's the point. And so guess what? Educated are also indoctrinated or also propagandized. This is what we've been talking about. So when you go outside the norm, then you get punished for it. What are we talking about? We're talking about things like communism, socialism, anarchism. We're talking about these things. Guess what? They want to shut our voices down. Why? Because we're talking about something outside of the capitalistic norm. And so because of this, then they are like, oh, you can't do that because XYZ, without actually studying the actual history behind the facts. And when you study objective history behind the facts, then you come to realize that, the entire system, the institutions is wrong. And the institution isn't correct just because it's an institution. And that's one of the things that we're trying to tell people. And people, like, for instance, people will go to corporate media and trust corporate media implicitly because it's an institution. And we're saying, absolutely, no, you shouldn't just trust them by their word. But yet, what happens? We get shut down on different platforms because we challenge the institution. Sabby?
No, it's true. It's true. It's like, and that's what they don't want you to do. They don't want you to challenge institutional.
Yep.
You know, they just don't want you to do that. And if you do start to do that, then they'll do other things besides like demonetization and things like that. They'll smear you, they'll call you names, they'll put out stories about you. Like we've seen all this happen, right? Yeah. So they want you to go along with the narrative that they tell you. And anybody who tries to go against that narrative, they're attacked.
Yeah. Nick?
That's a damn good transition to the next video we're going to play. But JB, do you have anything else you want to share? Because RBN, we go against the narrative. JB, that's a good transition because we have been rocking the boat. And I appreciate all the new support that we have. So this is almost like an educational video for the people who are new to our channel.
Welcome.
we greatly appreciate it because we got a lot of new subscribers, especially since the Anti-Imperialist Summit. Now we did that not our first summit. We did third party summit. We did a general strike summit. So there are a lot of people who have channels that are bigger than us. There are a lot of people who, let's call them bread tubers, who when they see a smaller channel like us doing stuff like bringing community together, like actually being on the streets, on the ground reporting, like all of us have. Rome is doing Tour for the Poor. We have members that constantly engage in mutual aid. CJ has a mutual aid organization as well. So this is something that was very interesting to me. It's almost like there was like a memo sent out. I don't know how this shit works, but it's like the attacks come in all at the same time. So people always wonder, like, why you guys always call out BreadTube? Why you guys always call out the Sam Cedars, the Hassan Pikers? And I'm like, these people quite literally was never on my radar. Like they would just be like people that are semi-irrelevant to me. And you can watch my old video, go on my old social anime YouTube channel. You see, I would never talk about these people. It wasn't until Forced to Vote. It wasn't until March for Medicare for All, and then the General Strike Summit, where I saw that's when their role. Maybe I should have seen it earlier, but that's when their role became clear to me. Their role is they are the sheepdogs that pretend that they are on the left, but they are here to drive people towards the establishment and smear anyone who has anti-establishment thinking. Now, I think I prefaced this video enough. You guys can chime in if you guys want. But our friend of the show, the Banks sisters, Courtney Banks, she put this amazing video together. Especially if you're new to this channel, you have to see it because I talk about this when we were smeared, when we did a General Strike Summit, and the most popular people on the left, one of the biggest Twitch streamers in the world, period, Hassan Piker, felt the need to come out and smear us. And it was so coordinated that you see David Doe. People like, why you guys always shit on David Doe? Because he was one of the people who got the memo.
Go
ahead, Sabby.
I was gonna say, just how we're in DM groups. Blue checks have DM groups too.
Ian Higgins, like everyone, like Vaj did a reaction video. It's like they all in the group chat was like, get sick. Send your fans after them. Like we got to shut them down. They're doing a Joe Strike Summit. They are running a media network the way like exposes us. Like you guys got way more subscribers, way more resources than we do, but we are out hustling them. So that's my only guess. Like that's actually the best faith interpretation on why they would do it. But I think I prefaced the video on that. Let's watch the video and then we can add some more analysis because it's quite a banger. And once again, big shout out to our good friends, Bank Sisters. I gotta have them back on.
Wait till you hear the music too. The music that she picked is so telling.
I love it. I think that it's worth being skeptical of people who spend the majority of their time delegitimizing and dividing the left. I think it's worth questioning what the motivations are. I think it's worth being skeptical.
Live stream at one point. It was like a 3-day event, and I checked in at their live stream at one point. They had like 300 viewers or something like that. And,
that's enough for a general strike, Look, I'm sure that both of these people have deep union organizing experience and labor experience.
So when we're talking about cancellation of student loan debt, we're talking about radically thinking about what it looks like to put financial power back into Black people's hands.
Like, can you imagine deciding to do a fucking general strike? Like, deciding to do a general strike educational seminar or whatever the fuck, not bringing a single fucking labor union organizer to that?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Trevor Beitelman. I'm the president and business agent for GM Local 3G. Work with people that are on strike against the Kellogg Company.
And then one thing about fucking Twitter posts to 22 people.
2019 that he called like April 1st or April 2nd. And when he called, he found out he had missed a $20 payment.
Drove his truck into the Mohawk River over a late $20 payment to his Medicaid plan.
What a pathetic, delusional, sad state of affairs that we're in. That more than even, if more than one other person, if it's not just these people's friends and families watching right now, if more than one person is watching this, it's sad. Like, that's so fucking sad.
I think pressure on politicians is good. If the important thing is that from my perspective, that the good faith, like, what is the agenda in pressuring the politicians?
Sure, like that. Hey, what happened to that? What happened to that March for Medicare for All? You said it was better 6 months ago.
Oh, Courtney.
now, do you guys know why we go after these people? It's not left infighting. These people are our enemies, and these people, Hassan, like 30,000 people watches him live at a single time. Like hundreds of thousands of people watch Hassan. Hassan smeared us and blatantly lied about our General Strike Summit and have yet to issue a retraction, did no apology. And I'm gonna pull this up. I'm gonna show you guys this, and I'm gonna give you guys take as well. Because I call it a ratio. Because this guy got 1 million followers. I had about 50,000 at the time. So he had 20,000 times my followers. But I damn near get the same amount of likes as he does on this. While I ratio him when he called out our general strike, when he was living about it. Right? Well, I just like, bro, I barely even knew who this dude was. Like, I never covered him. Didn't know the guy. Because that's not my focus. I only spend my time going after people where they attack us first. So ever since then, it's been on. You guys see David Doe. Now, people like, Nick, CJ, why you guys hard on David Doe? No, it's been on. It's been on. So that's why we exposed them. So I simply said, I could have took this many ways, right? I could have been an angry black man. That could have scared them. But my response to their dishonest smear was like, I want to have a conversation about this. You should invite me on. Explain to me why it's a bad idea to have a 3-day pro-labor education event. I'm sure it will go well. And remember I told you guys on Nick and CJ, these people are terrified. Terrified because he obviously didn't respond. And his fans were like begging him not to do it. The thread is hilarious. Because they know it wouldn't go well. And once again, I don't care about being on this show. They were like, oh, Nick, you just trying to be a clout chaser. You just want to get on the show. I'm like, sir, I wasn't the one who put Hassan's name in my mouth. He put my name in his mouth. Our name in his mouth. So if he don't want to invite me on the show and have a conversation, right, just keep my name out of your mouth. I haven't name dropped one person on here I wouldn't invite on to have a conversation because it wouldn't go well with most people. So it didn't make sense to me. I will look at Savvy and James' thoughts on that because now you guys see their role. Their role is to attack any legitimate action. They're criticizing us for streaming while they're literally streaming. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't even have to make sense. Their job, they got the group chat, they got the order, go after RBN because we was growing. We're still growing, even after their character assassinations. That is still true. That is untrue, and a lot of people still don't know. Every once in a while, there'll be some person like, how you got a General Strike Summit with no union organizers? Because Hassan went on his stream with hundreds of thousands of people and lied. So, yes, we're going to talk about these people, and we're going to expose them, because unlike before, I realize they have a role now. Their role is to attack grassroots activists, and having revolutionary discipline is being able to acknowledge our enemy so we can win this information and propaganda war. That video is going viral on Twitter right now, waking a lot of people's eyes up. They got a larger platform than us, but you think we haven't made a ripple effect? Me and CJ were just talking about this, the ripple effect in public discourse. That's why they had to respond. You think they really respond to people that was completely irrelevant? They knew we had journal strike. They knew we had UN organizers. I was tweeting about it.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that. I do not think they did not know that. They decided to smear us. They decided to smear us. So I know, Savvy, I know you don't have a ton of time, so I want to get you in here. What's your thoughts, Savvy? Anything you want to add?
No, I was just gonna say it's because I think we grew pretty quickly during a non-election year last year. I mean, there were no races, right? So we grew pretty quickly for that. And then not only that, we're an all-black group. So there's that element to it as well. And, going into this, I knew they were never going to give us the same amount of respect that they would a white person who does half the work that we do. Loyal. And that's still relevant, right? So you'll see people say, well, Nick, you should debate like Sam Cedar and you should debate. Those people would never, you got to remember, again, we're black. We're black. They're not trying to debate black leftists because all they have to do is slip up and say the wrong thing. And then people can point fingers and be like, whoa, what are you talking about?
Being funded. Like, imagine how bad I would look if Sam Cedar was like, I don't care about the police being funded more if he said it to me. But to prove Savvy's point, he wants to debate Jackson. And once again, no shade at Jackson, but he's white. They want to debate each other. So anyway, go ahead, Savvy.
Yeah, so it's just like Courtney I saw that video this morning. I was like, oh, I said she even put a song to it. Like she even put in the music. Like, no, that was awesome. Like it really opened people's eyes, and they knew what we were doing and stuff like that. And they know who we are and all of that. And a lot of this has to deal with the fact that we're actually doing something and they haven't done anything. All they've done for the past years is do what? Tell you to vote. That's all they've done. We know because we used to watch them. What have they done? When do you see them in the streets? When you see them trying to do any kind of organizing, when you see them do any kind of protest, Anna Kasparian doesn't get up from her desk. They don't do anything.
we had a March for Medicare for All, and Voss did a stream like the same day, just playing video games. It's like, bro, they're not joining us in actions. Like, why do people think it's left infighting? There's no unity here. There's no solidarity. There's no alliance. They are on the side of the establishment. They are on side. They still defend the squad, even though they are fucking imperialists, sending your money to Ukraine. I haven't seen none. Yep. Like that's the people they side with that, right?
They're still telling you to vote for. They'll still tell you to vote for them come November.
This video.
Watch.
Yeah, 100%. The video was so good. I watched it more than once. I think we should play it again. You guys want to? Me too. I think it's worth watching more than once because it's so good. I want you guys to pay attention to the part where Hassan tried to lie about what we're talking about. That's why she played that clip of that guy where he was sharing his story because it's a side by side. That guy was on our show and then he was on TYT. And it's funny how TYT is legit when they interview him, but when we interview him, it's not legit. I bring that up because that's a detail I didn't catch until like the second time I watched it. Which once again, this is a shout out to Courtney Banks because this video there's so many layers of it. That's why I want to play it again. Now check that part out and check out how dishonest they are being in their attacks. Now that we did our initial breakdown, then we can get James and after we watch it again. It's just that good. I might play it again in another stream eventually. It's literally just that good.
Worth being skeptical of people who spend the majority of their time delegitimizing and dividing the left. I think it's worth questioning what the motivations are. I think it's worth being skeptical.
Live stream at one point. It was like a 3-day event, and I checked in at their live stream at one point. They had like 300 viewers or something like that. And,
general strike, Look, I'm sure that both of these people have deep union organizing experience and labor experience.
So when we're talking about cancellation of student loan debt, we're talking about radically thinking about what it looks like to put financial power back into Black people's hands.
Like, can you imagine deciding to do a fucking general strike? Like, deciding to do a general strike educational seminar or whatever the fuck, not bringing a single fucking labor union organizer to that?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name's Trevor Beitelman. I'm president and business agent of BCTGM Local 3G. We're currently the people that are on strike against the Kellogg Company.
And then ranting about fucking Twitter posts to 22 people.
2019 that he called, like April 1st or April 2nd. And when he called, he found out he had missed a $20 payment.
Drove his truck into the Mohawk River over a late $20 payment to his Medicaid plan.
What a pathetic, delusional, sad state of affairs that we're in. That more than even, if more than one other person, if it's not just these people's friends and families watching right now, if more than one person is watching this, it's sad. Like, that's so fucking sad.
I think pressure on politicians is good if the important thing is that from my perspective, that the good faith, like what is the agenda in pressuring the politicians?
I have one I want to play really quick, Nick, that someone made. Can I do that?
Oh, cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Nick and JB?
Yeah, absolutely.
So somebody, I don't know if you guys know Turncoat Don, but he takes like snips and stuff and puts together little videos, but they're parodies, right? So it's supposed to be funny. He made one and he put me and Kim and some other people in it, and it's called the White Supremacist, starring Sagar and Jetty and Glenn Lowry. I just want to share. It's really funny. It's funny.
Okay.
Because he's making fun of how people will smear people when they say stuff like we should all come together and things like that. So let me see. I gotta mute my mic.
Oh my god! I saw that.
But it's true. That's what they'll say. That's what they'll say.
Oh my gosh!
I gotta go. Do you guys want me to tell you what's coming?
Yeah, I gotta go too. So I gotta go too. So I can wrap up. So go. Oh, so for me, I actually have for my announcements on Saturday. I will have Kit from Heartlands Media. 3 p.m. Eastern time. We always have a good time. Me and Kid, we connect every Saturday every once in a while. There's so much crazy shit going on. I'm like, Kid, bro, Kid, come on, let's do this shit. He always down. So that's gonna be a fun live stream. So that's the only thing I'm gonna plug right now. We got lots. We upload every day, so I got a lot of stuff. So that's the only thing I'm gonna say right now. Sabi.
Tomorrow, I won't be on RBN tomorrow because I'll actually be on the ground. I'm trying to get Mayor Michelle Wu has an event tomorrow called Coffee and Conversation. And I was asked to come report on it from a group that basically is afraid that they're about to get kicked out of like their housing facility because she has decided to privatize their house. It's a big deal. It's a housing issue. So I'll be talking about that. And then next week, Starbucks Union is going to come on. So I have some of them. And then Jill Stein will be on. Ryan Knight will be here. And later tomorrow night, Socialist Alternative will be coming back on. So it'll be a pretty busy week.
Oh, yeah, by the way, this is the video. I saw some people asking for the link while we was playing it. Anyone retweet that. We need to get that out. Do it right now. Click that link and retweet it. But sorry, go ahead, James.
Yeah, so JB Show will be on when the JB Show is on. You guys know the time and the day. It's going to be Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, next week, I will be on Comrade Misty's radio show. Nice. So be sure to listen out for that as well. I also have some guests coming on my channel next week. So be surprised for that because I'm not going to tell y'all. So be sure to be.
Make sure you guys subscribe to JB too. Subscribe to my man's channel, man. Like you see, he's killing out here at RBN. He's killing out RBN. Subscribe to JB. What y'all doing? What the hell y'all doing?
I'm trying to reach Sabby Sab's numbers. I'm trying to get to a bigger channel like Sab's. But yeah, so be sure to do that. And also, please make sure to follow Rome's Tour for the Poor. I think he was giving out diapers today. Yeah. So that's why he wasn't on today because he was giving out diapers. He had stacks and stacks of diapers to give away for parents out there. So yeah, if you guys can donate to Tour for the Poor, please make sure to do that for him because he's doing the damn thing out there. I'm really proud. Oh, and shout out to everybody that's watching on Rockfin, everybody that's there. Just to let you guys know, Fred Edward, so good to see you. Also, Lady Alex, anybody else that's on Rockfin that's watching live, the Borg. It's so good to see you on here as well. Thank you for supporting us on Rockfin. All right.
Are we out?
So are we out? Okay. So also make sure to please put a thumbs up on the video if you like what you're watching. Also, please make sure to give a comment, basically what you think about education and how the United States is slipping on education. And what you think about the video that we just played, the couple of videos that we just played. They were both pretty funny to me. Tell us what you like about them. And also make sure if you're not subscribed, what the hell are you doing? Make sure to also subscribe to our channel as well. We very much appreciate it. We'll give you cookies if you do. And please make sure to smoke them if you got them, like I always say, and leave the world better than you found it. And make sure to follow us on Twitter. Anything else, everybody? I think we're good. I think we're done.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Forehead kisses to all y'all. Mwah, mwah, and mwah. I love you. Oh, yeah.